In Texas, around 20% of people lease, and we think maybe 70 or 80% of people should lease.
I challenge anyone to write down on a piece of paper, what is the benefit of doing a loan?
Wow, welcome into the first edition of Inside the Lease. I'm Brian Estridge, and for the next little bit, we're going to learn a little bit about, the advantages of leasing through my friends at D&M Auto Leasing. Kelly Strausser is alongside. Good to see you, Kelly. How are you?
Nice to see you. I'm doing well. Thanks
also with us is Chase Kennemer.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
I am doing awesome.
You look good, man. I mean, it's for those who don't know, we're recording this. It's Masters weekend, and we were able to pull Chase away from the television. I thought that was pretty good, Kelly, that we were able to get him out of there.
I mean, I usually am up there, in my office watching TV.
Right, exactly. I know better than that. I thought we would start our conversation, if we could, fellas, with a question that I know you guys receive all the time.
Oh yeah,
and that is, why should I lease a vehicle as opposed to buying a vehicle? Kelly, let me start with you. That's a simple question, probably with a simple answer that I don't know.
Yeah, I think it really depends upon the individual and their usage. In Texas, around 20% of people lease, and we think maybe 70 or 80% of people should lease. The difference between leasing and buying, most people that want to buy a car, they think that if you're buying a car and you're making payments to the bank, that you have real ownership. And so there's that fallacy of ownership, and we'll say, like, okay, if you don't make the payment to the bank, what happens? And people understand that you'll get your car repoed, so you really don't own it until you make that last payment. And the fact of the matter is, most people in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Texas, most people drive a lot. Most in Texas is spread out, and so consequently, people trade every 3 to 5 years. And so, at its core, with a retail deal, with retail financing, most people that want that quote unquote ownership are essentially putting extra money down up front, and they're making a higher payment throughout their term at the hopes of getting that money back 3 or 4 years later. And with, gas prices or the economy, or your car gets hail damage and all of a sudden you got a bad
Carfax. Yep.
Then they don't realize that savings, or maybe they financed a vehicle for 72, 84 months, and you trade in the middle and you figure out really the only thing you own is negative equity. Whereas with a lease, it's much more logical. A lease, we take the time at D&M to find out how people are going to use the vehicle, how they're going to drive it, how long they're going to keep it, and we'll make a recommendation that's based upon their usage, so it's more custom tailored to the individual.
It's kind of a lifestyle thing, isn't it, Chase? I mean, I guess we should view vehicles like that, shouldn't we? That it's a lifestyle decision, and can you create a lease that fits your lifestyle, right?
I think the problem, the ownership mentality or misconception, I can't tell you how many people are like, oh, no, I don't lease, I own my car. I'm like, oh, okay, do you have the title at the house? And, well, no. And then you go look at them, and it's people I've met, right? They trade every couple of years. They're in the middle of these long-term loans. And so I don't know how. It's probably go back long before my time, and people just think that leasing is something that folks that can't afford a car do. Someone who's overspending or buying out of their means. And it's just so much more than that. And so it's a lifestyle thing. If you don't pay your car off, I mean, ownership, let's just break down what's the point of doing a loan, okay? If you're going to go buy a stock, you want to buy a stock today that then fast forward 3 or 4 years is worth a lot less. I mean, that you wouldn't make it as a financial advisor, I don't think, if you did that. And so if you're going to buy a car, the point would be true ownership, no payment, put the title in the safe at the house, and enjoy having no payment. And so it's like, who actually does that? So many people think they're going to do it, and they have the best intentions, but then life changes. And so that's where we feel like leasing just makes a ton of sense, because we can take the guesswork out of it. when I moved to Fort Worth, there wasn't a lot of customers that we had, on this side of town.
Right.
And Fort Worth is a community that does business with people in Fort Worth. And so we want to have a footprint out here, but I just, the more people I meet, I've been out here since 2017 is when I moved out here. So just under 10 years. And so I meet more and more people, and they'll eventually come up and say, all right, tell me about this leasing thing. And I ask them the question, if you and I both go to a local dealership, we both get a Chevy truck, the exact same one, same miles, same equipment, same options, same everything. And let's say you even pay cash. If we both drive them for 4 years, we both go trade out the same day with the same miles, same service, same everything, which one's worth more? And I get different answers all the time. Oh, the lease. Well, because you just paid for the part. I'm like, no, not what you owe. They're going to go appraise your car. You're going to get a trade-in value. You go to kbb.com. Mm-hmm. There isn't a blank on there that says if it's a lease, it's worth $2,000 more. They're worth the same is the point. And so a lot of people focus so much on the idea that they think they own it, and they don't think about the fact that the car's going to drop in value the same. Chevy makes them all the same at the plant. They're all the same price up front. When you go trade it in down the road, a 60,000 mile Silverado is worth what a 60,000 mile Silverado is worth. Whether you owe 100,000 on it or zero, or you're in a lease or a loan, whether you got it from us, whether you went to Oklahoma and got it. And so when people, I think we have an issue of educating people on that the car's, it's going to drop in value based on the car you pick, how long you drive it, and how well you maintain it. And so because you're in a lease and you damage your car, that doesn't mean that a lease has worked out bad. Well, if you damaged a car that you had a title to, it's worth less. So when people slow down and have it explained to them, it's like, it doesn't matter where you get it, doesn't matter how you buy it, it's going to drop in value the same. We philosophically believe leasing makes sense because we can just match those up and make sure that you don't overpay and have extra money tied up in a car that you get, rear-ended. Someone's looking at Facebook on their phone in traffic and rear-end you, and then you have to, have a bunch of damage repaired and you have a Carfax ding, well, you lose money. And at least you have a guarantee at the end. So it's like when people slow down and really have it explained to them, it's not renting, it's going to drop in value the same. The feedback we get all the time on the phone is like, and in person with Fort Worth people. I didn't know that. Why can't y'all get that message out?
Well, that's what we're doing.
So here we are.
That's what we're doing today. I like
it. Chase, the average new car transaction price has doubled in the last 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
And so new car transactions are over $50,000. The average new car transaction is $50,000.
I would have thought higher on
today. Yeah. Well, a lot are.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if we're frank, if you want to spend the least amount of money on a car, like what's the absolute cheapest way to get out of a car deal? It's to write a check up front and keep it for 12 or 13 years. If you do that,
and maintaining your garage as well.
Yeah.
Do your own maintenance on it.
That's right. Do your own maintenance. If you do that, then if you're willing to do that, then a lease is not for you. That's just, it's not, because you spread that check that you wrote for 10 years, 12 years, and your cost of ownership is very low. Aside from that, who has $60,000, $70,000? I mean, a Ram pickup is $70,000, $80,000. There's obviously an opportunity cost to that money. But aside from that, what most people do to afford the payments is they spread the monthly payments out so long until they can reach a payment that they can afford. And they're completely disregarding how long they're going to keep it and when they're going to trade it. And so what 90% of people end up doing, they end up in a trap of long-term financing, trading in the middle. And what we find is when you do that, the only thing you really own in the middle is negative equity. That's what you own. That's what you keep. And the problem with that is if you don't have a solution or you don't know how to retire that negative equity, what most people do is they just go back to the same dealership with not necessarily without a plan. And they go back and they do another deal that replicated the first deal. And maybe they put a little bit more money down. Maybe they finance it a little bit longer. Maybe they agree to a little bit higher payment. But in essence, all you're really doing is replicating the original deal and building new negative equity on top of the old negative equity plus the price of the car, and you pay interest on the entire amount.
Like carrying a credit card balance from car to car.
And,
Over
and,
and
and
over.
every time you carry it, you increase the balance and the interest goes up. So you're not only paying interest on the taxes of the car, interest on the vehicle, you're paying interest on your bad debt
Right.
that you're carrying forward. And so that's the trap that people get into. And we offer a concierge service where, we'll interview folks and we'll find out how they're really going to use the vehicle. Like Chase said, a car is going to depreciate, or a vehicle is going to depreciate the same no matter how you finance it. What we try to do is match that financing to the way they're using the car, so we can help them put the least amount of money every month into a monthly payment without compromising their equity position at trade. And so if you're just spending that minimal amount, whatever it is, could be 300, could be 1,000, whatever that is for the vehicle that you choose, that minimal amount every single month, and you trade even. When we help people do that, we feel like that's the least expensive way that people can pay for their cars, unless they want to keep them for 12 years.
Because they're not sacrificing their future ability to get what they want. So the problem is that you go in and we love grabbing younger people that are starting off, because they do a couple deals and then they find themselves in a situation. People typically don't want to get less expensive cars as time go on, right? You get more developed in your career, you make more money, married, kids, need bigger cars, all those things. So they may go in and they have a vehicle that their parents gave them, or, so they got a couple $1,000s as a positive trade-in towards their first deal. And they go buy a pre-owned car and finance it 60 months. They get out of that one early. And so then they lose the equity and maybe they're break even, but they're not slowing down thinking, okay, when I bought this, I had a $5,000 trade-in. It's gone now. But people don't, and most places that you buy a car certainly are not going to talk about that, because the whole focus is to get you excited about the car, get you emotionally attached to it, and then have you just go make a quick emotional decision. So getting customers to pay the right payment certainly isn't typically in the cards, and people aren't going to go, well, hang on a second. You had $5,000 down when you came in. Now it's gone. So you realize if you do the same deal that you did last time without the $5,000, when you trade out of this next car, you're going to be $5,000 in the hole. So they don't think about that. So they get worked out fine. And then they do another deal on a more expensive car, and maybe they go 72 months. More expensive car. They don't have the equity. So they want the payment to stay. I don't want my payment to go up.
No, none of us do.
So, no one does. So you do a longer term, and then they keep that one for a couple of years. Well, then they trade out of that one, and then they have $5,000 or $6,000 negative equity.
Even more, yeah.
So they're break even last time, they lost their equity. Now they're $5,000, $6,000 upside down, and then they go get another car. Well, with rebates and things like that, you can roll negative equity into a car deal. So the problem is after that next one, when the 5 becomes 10, 12, 15, from that point on, it's so painful to get out. What ends up happening is you start getting pushed towards cars that have substantial rebates on them.
Cars they don't want.
Right.
Yeah, they have huge discounts on cars, a lot of them, because those are the ones that are not moving.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
And so when there's big rebates on them, a lot of times the resale down the road is impacted, but they're able to get you financed with a bank, because if you get a big discount off the price of the car, you can roll it in. You're not carrying a large amount over the MSRP of the car. Problem is, though, is then you typically sacrifice. They really go in, they want a particular car, but because they're in a bad situation, they get pushed on a different car they don't want on a long term. Well, then they got a car they didn't want. They're going to want to keep that one even shorter than the cars that they did want. Well, then you're in a car you don't want with a ton of negative equity rolled in on a really long term, and then you don't even want to keep it as long as you kept your previous ones, and then it's way worse. And so it's like, how can we get people to stop that? And our philosophy is, let's talk about the end. Let's talk about how you want this to work out down the road. We can get any car you want. You want a new car, you want a used car, you want a Lamborghini, you want a Pinto. Mm-hmm. We can do anything. But
I'd like to see you get a Pinto.
I'm sure it could be done.
I'd like to see it.
I see Kelly driving a Pinto.
No, I don't drive a Pinto. But it's a cycle. Yeah. It's a cycle that people can't get themselves out of.
But if you get them early, like he said, What's your repeat retention? Like, what's your repeat?
We try to do, well, we do 70% repeat and referral business, and we try to do 5 deals with each customer over the years. So with us, when we do a deal, it's more the beginning of a relationship as opposed to something that's transactional. But to get back to what he was talking about, we find that when people sign long-term finance contracts and trade in the middle, every time they do it that way, the way Chase described and I did earlier, we find that their negative equity doubles. So their position gets worse and worse and worse every single time. And we'll ask people, we'll say, well, what are you paying? So what? It says I pay the bank $600, but we'll show them their effective payment. We'll say, well, no. Well, if you think about you finance it for 84 months, you trade it in the middle. How much did you put down? 5,000. Well, how much are you upside down? 10,000. Well, if you want to figure out what you actually paid, you know how to do that? Take the 5,000 that you put down, take the 10,000 that your vehicle's value doesn't cover, the
you still owe,
mark,
right?
Negative equity mark. You add that and you divide it by the term that they've had the car, and then add that to the payment you're making the bank.
Right.
And when you show people how much it's actually cost them out of their budget to finance cars that way, we all have an aha moment together, and then we decide.
Lindsay tried that with me one time. It was her birthday. I dropped her off at North Park Mall. I gave her $500, and I said, "Hey, go get yourself something nice, sweetie." She came back with all these bags and everything else. She said, Chase, what are you upset about? I only spent the $500 cash. All the rest is on a credit card.
Exactly. Doesn't matter.
I'm like, well, someone's got to pay that credit card, sweetheart. And so
times.
Yeah.
We started this conversation. You said something, Kelly, that really resonated with me. Where you said, I think you said there are 20% of Texans who lease.
Yes.
You feel like that number should be.
It should be, well,
much higher
if you're
how long they want to keep it.
In some markets up north, leasing penetration is 70 to 80%.
But what you were saying was you feel like you could save money for folks to the point where it should be 50, 60, 70%.
I think 70 to 80% of people should
be leasing.
I mean,
because they don't keep their cars. If they're going to trade it, I challenge anyone to write down on a piece of paper, what is the benefit of doing a loan?
Right.
What is the benefit?
Yeah, and you guys are saying this not because you're trying to make deals, because you really believe
we can sell cars.
We really believe in it.
You're going to save money.
100%.
And we can sell a car.
Exactly.
So we're not negative selling something we can't do. We can sell now.
Yeah,
well, the fact that we have, the fact that we've been around for 50 years and we started with some very humble beginnings,
right?
And the fact that we've grown a business that's 70 to sometimes even higher repeat and referral, and we have 50,000 people in our leases currently, not lifetime, currently. And so we wouldn't have that return rate, we wouldn't have that repeat rate if it wasn't working out for people. And I think that's what Chase was getting to. If we can start people, if we can fix the problem that they had when they got in, or start them off right, they continue to come back with us. And I think that's why when you look at some other markets that are 70 to 80%, some of them are up north and back east. But I think a lot of those markets started leasing because way back when cars were made differently and they'd rust. And so they'd only keep them for a short period of time. But I think what leasing taught that market is exactly what Chase is saying. They started out right. And so they lease their cars every 3 months. They get back and they're always paying the minimal amount for that vehicle. They never have the big down payments or the negative balance. And consequently, they may be a little bit more educated, and not just customers, dealerships, everyone. They may be a little bit more educated towards leasing in those markets. But if I believe
Texans
if everybody
educated,
no, I'm not saying that. I'm absolutely not saying.
I want to make sure on the record I get what you're saying.
Thanks for asking.
That's what we're doing here. We're educated. That's what we're doing, and we did it here in this first edition of Inside the Lease for Kelly and Chase. I'm Brian. We'll see you next time.